so great to see you all. Really a full house. And it's so good that we're all here in one room and I don't have to switch off lights at the other end and drag people into this hall here. So we're ready to roll the program for this evening. Very interesting topic, Rings of Things. And we have our champion here and moderator, Gene Wong. Welcome. And Gene has had a very interesting background. He's the CEO and founder of People Power, a software company enabling various controls and management of connected devices. He may touch on that a little more. Prior to that, he was chairman and CEO of Bitphone, an industry leader in mobile phone device management. And also, that was actually sold to HP for $160 million. Prior to that, CEO and chairman of Photo Access, which was sold to Agilent. So you can see he's got quite a interesting serial entrepreneurial kind of career. And prior to that at Symantec, he was executive VP and ran divisions that grew from 170 million to 400 million in that company. And so with that, he basically loves to record and play music. I think we may get him to sing as well today. So Gene, with that, please take over. Let's give him a great welcome here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's really, really great to be here. I'm very pleased to be here on a very special day. Actually, some amazing things happened. One thing is, for the first time in my career, we shipped a product today 5 days ahead of schedule. So, I mean, how often does that happen? Never. It's never happened to me, you know. It's always a little late, or a lot late, but, you know, it's early. And at the same time, actually, another thing happened early, which is my house went under a deconstruction project early. So that's kind of a big mess. But anyway, it's a great honor to have all of you here talking about the rings of things. And it's a very exciting topic because as we look from rings of devices to protocols to applications to services, we see some real examples of startups that are really making a difference. So on the devices side, how many of you have heard of Nest and the Nest thermostat? I mean, that thing is just flying out the door. They are selling tons of those devices. They're pretty expensive, by the way. But you know, that is one of the fast starts for Kleiner Perkins, and it's a really nice example of an Internet of Things device that is just taking off like crazy. There's a company in the wireless protocol space called Gainspan. Have any of you heard of Gainspan? Okay, a few of you. This is a company that is just coming out with a low-power Wi-Fi / Zigbee chip. So basically, it's it is very low power for various things that you might put in, and really starting to make a difference in what you can do for the Internet of Things. And then in terms of apps, we thought that we might show you the People Power app, which is coming out. It is not just an app, it's also a platform. It's an example of what you can do in the Internet of Things. And then finally, there has been just a few weeks ago an IPO of a service by a company called Silver Spring Networks. Have any of you heard of Silver Spring? Okay. So, I mean, for an entrepreneur, that is what it is all about, right? That is the the gold medal there. So they're coming out with they're a company that integrates and builds networks for all of these smart meters, and they actually, turns out my next door neighbor and friend at Goldman Sachs was the one of the guys who took them public. And whenever there are these IPOs, it really breathes new life into the whole entrepreneurial ecosystem. You know, all the investors get excited, all of the startups get excited, and I really hope and pray that out there in the room, some of you are going to get to that point, because one of the things Raj did not mention is I had the great opportunity to take a company from having 2.5 weeks of cash left to an IPO. And there is nothing like it. So that's what it's all about. And I think that the big opportunity really is in this Internet of Things. Just to set a little of context, it is, from the market side, a gigantic opportunity. So according to Research and Markets, it's going to grow from $44 billion to $290 billion over the next few years. So it is an existing market that is one of the fastest growing markets. And then according to ABI research, it's really going to enter into on the order of 90 million homes in the residential space. So it is, you know, it is, and you can see it now, you know, companies like Comcast and Verizon have entered the market. Companies like AT&T have announced their intentions to move into this market of value-added services. And by the end of the decade, companies like Cisco and others are saying, we're going to move from, you know, 5 billion to 50 billion connected devices. So it is really, and I think you folks probably already realize this, that's why we have a full house today. It is a gigantic opportunity for startup entrepreneurs who really cleverly figure out how to position what they do. And it can, and success can be found in any one or several of these rings. But is there going to be one ring to rule them all? Probably not, because it is such a broad, vast cosmos. We're talking about a whole range of different kinds of connected devices, and just to name, you know, 5, 6, smartphones, you know, one of the most popular consumer electronics devices on probably, I think, the most popular consumer electronics device. And I just read that the smartphone is now over 50% of the volume shipment. So smartphones have now overtaken feature phones as the most popular kind of phone. Things like thermostats like Nest, cameras, smart plugs, appliances that we'll hear about from Kurt, you know, business equipment, all kinds of things can be connected. Different network protocols, and you know, again, I think it's not the case, in my opinion, that one network protocol will win. That's not going to happen. In fact, it's going to be this very fragmented, multi-protocol approach where we have, you know, different flavors of Wi-Fi, Zigbee, Z-Wave, Powerline, Bluetooth, and on and on. So these are just some of the popular protocols that will be in this Internet of Things. And then in terms of app categories, some of the categories might include security, efficiency, comfort, convenience, transportation kinds of apps. And then in terms of service types, well, services can target many kinds of demographics, use cases, including residential, enterprise, small business, industrial, and smart grid. So it is going to be a wide open market opportunity for many, many thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of companies to build a business. In this Internet of Everything, I recently saw this white paper written by Cisco. You can kind of, if you go to the Cisco website, you can browse, I think, search for Internet of Everything to see this embracing the Internet of Everything to capture your share of $14.4 trillion. And basically, Cisco points out that 99.4% of the things that should be connected aren't yet. So clearly that there's a lot of opportunity there. And I was wondering how they got that 0.4%. You know, the accuracy of Cisco is astounding. they must be really great at math over there, but very, very interesting paper, and you know, of course, Cisco stands to benefit tremendously if we do connect those 99.4%. But you know, really, it is this gigantic opportunity any way you look at it. I also read this very interesting, we had circulating around this GigaOM article called "We Can't Let the Internet of Things Become the Tyranny of Things." So, you know, they talked about some nice IoT examples and some not so nice IoT examples where, you know, things just don't work right, and they don't interoperate, and they don't come up, and they're hard to pair, and so on and so forth. So there are definitely, you know, some right ways and lots of wrong ways to do things. And hopefully in these presentations we'll hear about some of the right ways to do things, because clearly, you know, there are things where you can get kind of these islands of devices that may or may not work right. It's a reasonable thing to take a look at if you read GigaOM. So in summary, this is, in my opinion, the next wave of innovation to hit the internet. You know, we're talking about a 10x increase. This, by the way, is the new world record 100-foot wave that was surfed. This poor guy right here, he is having the time of his life. He actually survived this. You see the surfer? That could be you. Imagine that. The gigantic transformation of the internet is coming. We are talking about going to 50 billion connected devices, up by a factor of 10. What can you do to be the one to set the new world record of this 10x new transformation of the internet? That's what we're going to talk about. Thank you. And what I'd like to do is invite Kurt Hoppe up to talk about Rings of Things from LG's perspective. And please welcome Kurt Hoppe.
Thanks, Gene. Greetings, TIE members. Thanks for having me tonight. I think tying into what Gene just said, there's two things that come to mind. So one is, if we think of our homes today, and again, Silicon Valley would be a bit skewed in one direction compared to the rest of the country, but if you think for a minute, how many connected devices currently exist in your own home, between the devices you own, your spouse, your children? The national average is probably lower than the number of people in this room, but the national average is actually I won't tell you that first. How about a show of hands? How many people have more than 10 connected devices in their home? Okay, more than 15? More than 20? Okay, kind of peters out around there. So the national average is actually only around 7 today, but in the next few years it will go to 20 plus easily. And obviously when you look at the numbers that Gene's talking about, just think about if you put a sensor or a smart plug in each home, or a thermostat, you know, it's quickly you're going to add, you know, your iPads and connected TVs and smartphones. It's gonna go very quickly. So there's huge opportunities for everyone in this room. So I think that's very exciting. One thing about my background, as Gene mentioned, actually I started off as an Air Force, as a communications officer in the military, which was the biggest company I worked for before LG, because I trended down for quite a period of time. And the last, as I was consulting for companies and working with some small startups, I trended down from tens of thousands to, you know, thousands to hundreds to 12 people, and then I jumped into LG with 93,000. But the good news is I'm here in LG at our Silicon Valley lab. So we have an innovation center here. We recently announced about 4 weeks ago that LG had acquired WebOS from HP, and that we're going to use the fantastic WebOS product and the 100 people that we acquired to apply that technology initially to smart TVs. So for 2014 and beyond, you'll see some very interesting things happen. So if you're familiar already with WebOS or have developed before, there's some interesting opportunities. But our team here in the Bay Area, the innovation team, we're looking for third-party companies based on either needs that we've seen in the market, or we've heard from our product marketing teams, or that we've decided ourselves make sense. And so on a very regular basis, we're meeting with companies ranging from 5 people to tens to 100. Next week, for example, we have a TV tech fair where we're going to be meeting over the course of 2 or 3 days. We're bringing teams in from Korea, and local startups are going to be coming to show us their latest and greatest technology. Again, because LG, although we have many engineers, we don't profess to be the owners of innovation or trying to develop anything or everything ourselves. That's why we wanted to establish a bigger presence in the Bay Area that we announced a few weeks ago. So just a quick education. I'm going to move through these slides fairly quickly, take about the next 15 minutes, and then we'll have a chance for questions at the end. But depending on how familiar you are with LG, some of these slides have timers and things built in. LG corporate, actually there's about 60 different LG companies if you go over to Korea. Everything from LG Chemical to LG Display. LG Display is the only LG company trading publicly here in North America. So LG Display makes glass for LG's products, for competitors' products, for tablets, and for lots of smartphones. But LG Electronics is the LG company that I'm a part of. Again, quite a bit of sales, quite a few R&D centers around the world. There's 4 divisions that are relevant to the Internet of Things, and that everyone in this audience would be available to work with. I'll spend most of my time tonight talking about home entertainment, which is essentially the living room. And if you look at the list of products there, cars, for some reason, are also part of the living room. But I guess it gets close to inside the house, in your garage at least. Mobile communications. We have 2 of the top 10 smartphones right now. We used to do really well in feature phones. We missed the transition to smartphones, so we're working on catching up. But we've got some pretty good products today. Home appliances. Probably people in this room have some LG appliances at home. If you bought a recent LG appliance, like a washer, dryer, refrigerator, it may already be internet connected, and maybe a smart appliance. And then the 4th division inside LG Electronics is air conditioning and energy. So LG doesn't have much of an air conditioning presence here in North America, but if you've spent time in other parts of the world, you would have seen that the LG brand for residential, especially residential air conditioning, is pretty significant. So I'm going to quickly go through some of these products, touch on different areas, just so we have some good context at the end for Q&A. So smart devices. So smart TV, you've probably been hearing about these. Pretty popular, consumer awareness across the country, even in St. Louis. 6 out of 10 consumers say that the next TV they buy, they've already decided that it's going to be a smart TV. So this is a big change from 1 or 2 years ago, when most people that went into a Best Buy were looking at thin form factor, some energy management. They were interested in 3D, and connected was only 3rd on the list. Now connected or smart TVs are rising very quickly. And again, they need to be easy to use and intuitive, because most people, when they sit in their living room, don't want to have a keyboard, don't want to lean forward and work too hard. So we want to work with companies to help make that user experience and the user input and interaction intuitive. And I'll mention a few things we've done today for that, but we're looking at new ideas. Content, of course, is important. You don't buy a TV. You buy a TV primarily to consume video content. Usually it's pay TV content historically, but increasingly over the top and video on demand services. You may use it for games as well. And then, of course, connected to your digital life. You have all these other devices we're talking about, 7 in your home today, going to 20 and beyond. The smart TV, 55-inch, 60-inch, which is the most popular sizes now, that's a great display to put your app or put your control, element on when you're sitting in the living room to control these other devices. So, and if you want a really big TV, you can get a 100-inch laser TV now that comes from this projector. So we announced this recently. It's a smart projector, so it's got all the functionality of a smart TV. including an open SDK and things I'll talk about, you can develop for this product. And you can sit it down, it can be portable, sitting down 22 inches from your wall. You can carry it over to your friend's house, your neighbors, and have it, you know, watch the football game on 100 inches. If you have your Android phone, you can project your video from that to the projector to the 100 inches pretty seamlessly. We also have set-top boxes and a variety of those devices. Actually, I left the one on the table over there, but so again, LG has lots of products. Our primary path to market is through retail. So some products you may see in some countries, some in others. This product is one that we sell in Canada through Best Buy and Future Shop and different retailers up there. It's basically it's a DMA, but it's pretty nice. Everything that's on the smart TV is on this little box. So for the 200 million TVs that are already out there that we want to add smarts to, we've got a variety of different devices. That can be, and there's USB ports on the back, so you can plug Zigbee dongles, Z-Wave dongles. This can be a home control gateway. You know, it's essentially it's a PC smart TV in a portable box, and there's different versions of this. So again, another platform to develop for. I talked about being intuitive. We worked with a startup that have been around for a while from the East Coast. Some people may have heard of Hillcrest Labs. So that's one of the companies we worked with to develop this LG Magic remote. There's other technologies in there as well, but the press loves this. Again, sitting in front of your TV, something intuitive. This is our second or third version now. If you look at some of the features that are in this remote, pointing, so on-screen mouse, that seems reasonable. With a more complex user experience, you just want to be able to point and click. But there's a whole bunch of technology in there to make it stable, make sure you don't lose it. You know, if there's an older consumer using the remote, so it's not shaking, it compensates for that. Gestures for people, that's a little bit of a cutting edge feature. You can train your remote, you know, if you do an O, it goes to the Oprah channel, or if you do a check mark, it can do something. It comes preloaded with some gestures, or you can train it for others. It's got a scroll wheel, which is actually fantastic for scrolling through your channel lineup or your VOD titles, or if you're brave enough to try to browse a web page on your TV, you can use your scroll wheel for that. And then voice, which I think makes a lot of sense. There's a microphone in every LG Magic remote this year that you can submit a search query. Anytime there's an on-screen soft keyboard, you can talk into your remote. And this year we added beginning steps of natural language as well. So again, examples, if you can think of these areas, kind of extend that, how could we make this better? How could we improve natural language? How could we improve any technology that's in a remote like this? You know, we're working with and looking for third-party companies that have ideas. Something as simple as battery management. So if you think about a traditional legacy remote control, usually you're doing up, down, left, right, select. Maybe you're typing some number keys. So it's very, you know, IR codes. It doesn't use much battery. You probably have to change your battery once a year on those types of remotes. Now you add, you know, bi-directional communication using Bluetooth and other technologies. There's significantly more battery consumption happening here. So we'd like to make it easier for the consumer, not have to change their battery or recharge as often. So again, looking for ideas in that area. LG, moving on to LG Mobile. Again, I'm not gonna spend much time on there. Everyone in this room knows about smartphones and developing for Android. Nexus 4 is one of LG's phones that's very popular these days. So if you develop for Android, and you know the latest and greatest, whether it's Ice Cream Sandwich, Jelly Bean, that platform is available. Smart appliances. So this is an interesting and growing area. Many of LG's appliances that we announced last year in 2012 and we showed at CES a few months ago. Let me go back here. Refrigerators, washing machines, you know, ovens. These are all internet connected. So they're Wi-Fi connected for control, and there's APIs we can talk about and we make available to certain partners. But they also, many of them have optional ports for a Zigbee dongle, for example. So if there's a home energy management element to them, they're expandable that way. And again, if you think about it, why would some of these things I guess look like pretty much common sense. Actually, I'll just step through them here. So basically, refrigerators. Interesting thing about refrigerators. Why would they want to be internet connected? We actually did an internet connected refrigerator, I think 10 years ago. It was a bit early, but the time's right now. My refrigerator disappeared. But what we showed now at CES and that you can buy today is a control panel which has, you can connect to your Google Calendar, for example. So what traditionally was a family calendar with a magnet hanging on the side of the refrigerator, now it can be your Google Calendar with multiple people seeing right on your refrigerator where you're supposed to be. There's an element of inventory management. We're trying to, again, make it easier. Anyone that's got ideas for that, we'd love to talk to you. If we come home from the grocery store, how do you get the inventory of all those, the 7 apples you bought? How does the refrigerator know you bought 7 apples? Are there RFID tags everywhere? Do you have to wrap every apple in an RFID wrapper before you put it in? But the interesting thing is once there is an inventory, and it could be through this touchpad today, 5 apples, and you got to teach your kids every time they take an apple, -1 apple. This doesn't sound like the best user experience. But then when you're in the grocery store, if you've got that other part worked out, you can connect back to your home inventory and say, oh, do I need apples or not? Yes, I do. Okay, let's put some in the shopping cart. Washing machines, again, alerts seem to make pretty common sense. You're in the other room, you're in a big house. You want to know when the dryer's done, so you can go hang the clothes up so they're not not wrinkled. Interesting thing is there's actually technology that I'm not aware of this kind of thing, but there's like washing machine algorithms and things how to wash better. Instead of just turning one way, so build an SDK or connect it, and now you can through a combination of energy management purposes or just someone in the open development community has figured out how to wash cotton shirts better. You can update your LG washing machine to turn and adjust the cleaning algorithm. So interesting things that I probably won't create any of those algorithms, but maybe some people in the room will. Air conditioners, again, obviously connecting to a thermostat, whether it's an LG thermostat or someone else's. This is a very reasonable thing. I was mentioning to David, I recently was fortunate enough to go on a vacation, my first 2-week vacation in 12 years. So I was very happy about that. But while I was away on my vacation, I thought, did I turn the heater down, or am I going to be spending electricity and gas to heating an empty house? But I had no way, unfortunately, to connect back to my HVAC system or thermostat. I was able to lock my car though with my LG phone and my remote application. I could make sure my car was locked, so that was good. Similarly, commercial air conditioners, everything we're doing is applicable to residential or commercial in different scales. So I think that's it for the quick product overview. A couple apps I wanted to highlight. I've mentioned a few of them already, but obviously, why do you buy TV for apps? If you have an external set-top box, that's pretty easy, HDMI 1. But if you want to use this other, applications, Netflix is, of course, maybe it's not of course, but Netflix is the most popular over-the-top or connected application that's being used on all of these devices on the 10-foot user experience. But there's a lot of other apps as well. There's an open SDK that's available for the global developer community. They can go to LG's website, download the SDK, develop in an HTML5 app, or something called Plex. So Plex is an XBMC variant that Boxy uses. So that's an example. I'm not sure if we've publicly said this, so turn off the camera, but Plex is an example of a small company we worked with very closely, and we may have made an investment in. But I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that. So. Another application, again, how do you, this Internet of Things, if there's a camera as an accessory or embedded in TVs as we go forward, some percentage, again, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, how many cameras were in your phone? There was some percentage that was. Now, how many cameras are in your smartphone? You've got 2 cameras in every smartphone. So if you've got cameras in your TV, developers can create interesting applications. So This example is a Let's Dance application that was developed, where you basically have a VOD training video on one side, and then the camera will show you what you're doing, so seeing if you can copy that. So if you don't like that, then don't use that app, or you can, of course, close your camera. Most TV manufacturers are aware of privacy, and there's some way to close the camera so no one's spying on you. So Smart TV Alliance, I mentioned, we're trying to promote and make it easy for the developer community to develop for one platform and run on many. So LG started the Smart TV Alliance, and it was announced last year when we initially joined forces with Philips and with Sharp, and then since then Toshiba, Panasonic, and other companies like Qualcomm or Yumi, different companies. Anyone that's interested in developing for the 10-foot user experience or for the television, you're open to join the Smart TV Alliance. And again, if you use that web SDK and you write your application, it's going to run on all the platforms. If you want to use something special, some special feature in the hardware of one of those TV manufacturers, you would need to use the TV manufacturer SDK. So device interactivity, you've got all these devices. How can you make them work together? There's examples, something as simple as sound bars. So as these TVs get thinner and thinner and thinner, and OLED TVs become more affordable, hopefully, in the next few years, and you can buy one of these 4mm thick TVs, that weighs 15 pounds, 55 inches, hang it on a picture hook. Where do you put the speaker? So if you've got a speaker technology, please come talk to us, because we're always interested in figuring out how can you put a speaker in something that's 4mm thick that sounds good. But one product category that's growing fast to address that is sound bars. So sitting underneath your smart TV, sound bars, again, and trying to make it easy to connect those devices together. And actually one of our sound bars that we announced this year to support dumb TVs actually is a smart sound bar. So the same SDK that's available in the TV, you could develop for a sound bar. And then have that application available and displayed on the TV on your legacy television. Smart Share, there's a couple examples here. So first one, this animation is showing you basically using MHL, if you're familiar with MHL. So take your smartphone with a special cable, connect it to your HDMI port of a relatively new TV that supports MHL, and then your magic remote can actually control, you can play whatever application is on your smartphone, you can play it on the 55-inch display using a point-and-click device. The next one here is basically Miracast. You may have heard about that. Basically, it's the Android version of AirPlay. Is I guess the easiest way to compare it. So whatever is on your phone, you can easily push it to your television. And again, we want to make that a simple experience to pair it. I'll show you something we're doing for that in a minute. But basically, anything on your phone can be displayed wirelessly on your TV. And then third example here is WiDi. So Intel's WiDi. Whatever you're displaying on your PC somewhere in the home, maybe you've got some videos or a USB stick over there. You can carry the USB stick to your smart TV, of course, or if it's already sitting on your laptop, you can just use WiDi and send it to the TV. I think we were the first manufacturer to support WiDi in the TV. So those are just 3 examples of what we call Smart Share, how to move content around between devices. One more example. So again, part of this pairing process, this is showing you NFC tags. So basically near field communication, something that's has been especially popular in Europe and is starting to arrive now in more implementations and applications in North America. We're showing you that you can basically pair your smartphone. Basically new smart TVs, we include an NFC tag. New smart washing machines, we include an NFC tag. Now you can take your smartphone that supports NFC, touch it to the tag. Now those devices are paired and you can start to do interesting applications. So interesting application that we just went by pretty quickly here in the animation was once it's paired, show a simple user experience with an arrow pushing towards the TV or pulling from the TV. Simply move your smartphone, again, flip it towards the TV. Now it's Miracast, it sends your screen. If you want to pull the content from the TV, you can pull it. And some of our higher end TVs actually can transcode the video stream, unprotected video streams, and send it back to you to your phone. So if you need to leave the room during the big game to go get some food, you can take the live video that's being transcoded in your TV with you. So again, just different examples of protocols, I guess. Smart control, again, basically how do you control all these devices? We have, in the past we've had individual applications. We're now consolidating those for customers that have multiple devices. You can, again, turn on or off the relevant features or applications to control based on what you own in the home, but we call it Smart Think, so to control different appliances. And there's the food manager I mentioned before. Again, what's in your fridge, take it on your smartphone. When you're in the grocery store aisle, you can double check what's at home in the refrigerator. And so LG is working with partners to enable the smart home, looking for, again, working all of our appliances and all of our devices are Wi-Fi connected. Some of our devices have ZigBee options or others through USB ports and otherwise. And again, this is a work in progress, but we're interested in actively working with third parties, small companies, medium-sized companies to enable the smart home control and energy management. And so that's all I've got for now. I'd love to get your questions later on at the end, but thank you. I think I'm going to turn this over now to David, who's going to explain, I think, some of the technology behind all this.
So first off, it's a pleasure being here tonight. And I want to start off by saying we're all here in this room today because we're here to create. And we all love to create something. And for some of us, this may be hardware. So I'm an electrical engineer at heart. And there's nothing better than actually building something that you can touch and feel with your bare hands and point to that and say, check that out, I built that, and show your friends. Some of us build software, and that's very rewarding as well. I do a lot of software programming myself, and with software, it's really nice to be able to solve a problem and then make that solution available to thousands of people, especially all over the world. Software really helps us solve this distribution problem. And then some of us really like to create businesses, and that's what has me excited, because the success of the mobile industry has given us this unique opportunity today to really expand the capabilities of our smartphones. And everybody who has a smartphone loves to download apps, and you download apps because you want to continue doing more things with that smartphone. And the opportunity is here today to take what is in that smartphone, that is today's software, and connect that into the real world around us. And that's what this Internet of Everything is all about. So there's been a big problem with the Internet of Things, the Internet of Everything. If it's so great and it's going to be so big, why hasn't it taken off yet? Why don't we all have dozens of devices in our homes that are connected already today? And I see one of the problems here is that people have to pay money to actually get started. There's a barrier to entry right there. And how do you actually convince a person to buy something if they don't even know they have the problem in the first place until they try out your solution? And there's plenty of other issues with this Internet of Things market, like interoperability, for example. As Gene was mentioning earlier, there's lots of protocols. I'll talk about these in a moment. There's opportunity to overcome some of these challenges. The thing is that when you're designing these products, you don't want to design it in a vacuum. And I've seen a lot of internet-connected devices so far today that have been developed right there in the middle of that vacuum, completely without asking real people, are you actually going to use this? Does this matter to you? And frankly, that sucks. So don't build your products in a vacuum. You want to get out there and talk to people and make sure that what you're building actually has value. Now, one way that we can determine if an idea has value or not is really by looking at what we do in our daily lives. Now, this is Marissa Mayer, the CEO of Yahoo. And if any of you have listened to her recently talk about how she's transforming Yahoo, she has some really intelligent things to say, which I think apply to all of us. And she says, everybody has daily habits that they go through. Did you know that 40% of the people in the world will actually get on the internet before they get out of bed in the morning? They're on their smartphones. And what are they doing? They're checking the news, they're checking the weather, they're checking their email, they're looking at their friends' pictures, they're looking at stock ticker reports, and these become their daily habits. And what Marissa argues is that anything that is a daily habit or can become a daily habit is an opportunity to create revenue. And it's an opportunity for businesses to succeed. Now, I totally agree with her, but I think that it doesn't stop there. I think that's great for Yahoo, because that's what, Yahoo does, news and email and finances and sports and all of these things. But think about your daily lives and your actual daily habits. And you'll find that there's many more things in your lives that you care about more than you care about your email. So for example, we're a cozy audience here. Who here has pets? Quite a few of you here. This is my dog, and she's naughty. And I strapped a GoPro camera to her back, which was interesting. But, I'd rather spend time with my dog than checking my email. That's a great daily habit. And how many of you have kids? Even more people. So these are not my kids. I stole a picture of Jean's kids. But my point here is that you create daily habits that are not online, and these are more important to you than checking your email and checking stocks. And those daily habits they exist in the real world. So this creates a huge opportunity for developers and companies to flourish as we take our mobile phones and we extend the capabilities of those devices into controlling the real daily habits in our lives. And as Jean was saying earlier, we actually today at People Power announced a new product called Presence. I might get an opportunity to show you how this works later. Our goal was to break down the barriers to entry in this market and enable developers and other companies to really succeed as they try and penetrate through this Internet of Everything. And what we have done is first off, let me give you some background on People Power Company. We're a startup company. We started doing hardware. And actually we found out hardware is really, really hard. So we put our minds to this problem and came up with a software solution that puts a device into the hands of millions of people. And this device is your smartphone. And in fact, if you look at the number of smartphones that are getting replaced every day, it's pretty astronomical. Over the past year, in fact, there's been 50 million iPhones alone that have been replaced as people go buy iPhone 5s, for example, and the latest and greatest technologies. These are devices that they're people's old phones and spare tablets. They typically have 3 options of what they could do with those devices. You could sell it. And there's companies made around just selling your phones. You could give it away, and there's other companies that are helping people donate their phones. But the most often chosen path is you stick that old phone into a drawer. So this app, which is free, by the way, this will transform your old phones and tablets that you have laying around the house into free Wi-Fi video cameras. Now, and you can actually see here, these are real pictures coming out of this app. That's my dog there. I left the house and I wanted to check in on her. And that's Jean's son coming home from school. So you can really connect with the things that matter the most to you. But why did we make this free? This is a totally free service and a free app. And again, it's to enable other companies to connect into this app and add more value into the home. So our hypothesis, and we've been looking at this Internet of Everything market for quite a while, is that we want to get people comfortable with looking at their homes, looking at their offices remotely. It's really a behavior change, and it's really tough to get people to go through that behavior change process. You're not used to connecting in and controlling things remotely. That's probably another barrier of entry to this market. So by encouraging people to connect with the things that matter the most to them, then, as those people are viewing their kids remotely and watching over their pets and making sure no one's breaking into their house or stealing things out of their cubicles, then they might want to control things. And so this is where the opportunity comes in, where there's the ability to connect up other devices into this platform in this ecosystem that can be upsold to these the people who are freely using this app. So in this case, so Kurt was mentioning his trip to Hawaii earlier, his vacation, and you know, you can actually see here's a thermostat connected to this app, and we can control temperature remotely. And then there's a smart plug and some other devices here. But let me, you know, so this is a big opportunity for developers of all sorts to create new hardware and new software and new businesses on top of these connected devices, connected services, and the daily habits that people actually have in their everyday lives. So at this point, I'm actually going to drill down a couple levels. And we're going to talk about some of the technology that you may need to think about as you are considering this market, and how would you actually get in and build something. So if you're a hardware person and you like building hardware, one of the first questions you're going to have to ask yourself is, well, there's so many protocols out here, which one should I actually pick? Which one's the best and which one's going to win? And I completely agree with Gene's comments earlier that there's not really going to be a winner. It's going to be a fragmented market, but I guarantee you're going to use one protocol. And that's Ethernet, because everything connects up to a hardwired line at some point. So assuming you've got an Ethernet connection in, and that's a wired connection, you can't like run a wire to your dog's collar and, you know, so you want it wireless. So then what wireless protocol do you choose? There's a handful. And I'll give you my opinion, which is, you know, really you got to look at your product and evaluate what works best for the use cases that you're targeting. Also, what you should take into consideration is that everybody does have a Wi-Fi router in their house, in their office today. And so Wi-Fi is nice because then you don't have to buy another device to connect to your products. Wi-Fi does have limitations. If we count the number of individual light bulbs in this room, for example, we might run out of IP addresses on a Wi-Fi network. So Wi-Fi might not work best in, you know, for some of these use cases, at least with IPv4 as it is today. But and then there's Zigbee, and as Gene was saying, there's some companies creating Wi-Fi Zigbee combinations, and Zigbee, in my opinion, has you know, there's a lot of potential there. I'm torn with Zigbee because, you know, it's, on one hand they call it Zigbee, but on the other hand it's actually multiple protocols under this big umbrella called Zigbee that you have to specify, am I speaking Zigbee home automation, Zigbee RF4CE, you know, and on. Zigbee Smart Energy, for example, and each one of these don't really interoperate with each other. But I will say, the trends I see in the market is that set-top box manufacturers really want to get rid of the infrared remote control and replace that with something wireless, so that what you can do is hide that set-top box in a cabinet or even get it out of the room completely so you don't even have to look at it. And if you're going to get it out of the room or hide it behind a cabinet, then infrared doesn't work anymore. So then you have to upgrade your remote controls to something wireless. That's where the Zigbee RF4CE standard comes in. And if those set-top box manufacturers are putting a Zigbee RF4CE chip in their box anyway, then they might want to also add in the capability to control other devices around the house, and that would be Zigbee home automation. And so I see that trend driven by set-top box manufacturers and the MSOs and service providers that they are selling to, who want to increase the average revenue per user and by selling more services into the home. They may eventually you know, have cause Zigbee to really explode inside the home market. You know, so there's pros and cons to each of these protocols. One of the things, though, that you should pay attention to is how easy is it really for a consumer to set up. So here's one of the things that we designed here, and there's multiple ways to actually connect a device, but in this case, what you do is you open the box of a product, you get out your smartphone, it has a camera on the back, and you scan this QR code. And each individual product has a unique QR code with its own MAC address and so on it. And what that does is you have logged into your phone and into an account that you may be managing multiple devices in this account on your phone. And now when you scan this QR code for this for a product, it binds that product to your user account. And now all you have to do is plug it in and you're connected. Now there's another question, which is, I'll go back to this slide. If you picked pretty much most of these protocols, then there's another pairing process step to take place. You have to pair that device wirelessly to the router. Even with Wi-Fi, as pervasive as it is a big challenge for a lot of people who are especially non-technical to actually set up. So anyway, user experience and out-of-box experience is the key. And in fact, I've learned that the out-of-box experience is really directly proportional to the likelihood to recommend that product. So if you found a product that was easy to set up, you're more likely to recommend it to your friends and your family, and so on. So that can get that viral nature going. Now, let's talk about how you actually get a product connected to a cloud service. So there's multiple ways to do this. And in many cases, it's these API calls that you make. And what I'm showing here is what is called a RESTful API call. It's a HTTP, HTTPS. It's the same thing you type into your web browser in the address bar and you hit enter. That's a GET request. When you push data out to the server, that's a POST, for example. So what this means, though, is that these types of protocols were very intelligently designed to break through NATs, which is translating your internal network to the outside wild world. It breaks through that, and it breaks through firewalls as well. And that's important because if you stick a device behind someone's firewall, you certainly want to still communicate with that thing. So the way it works is that the device itself is responsible for contacting the server. The server does not directly contact that device. It's all driven by that device. And when the request comes from the device up to the cloud, that's when the cloud is allowed to send a command or an acknowledgement back down to that device. That's how you break through these NATs and firewalls. And it's just a very basic concept, but that's what you need to enable these devices. And there's many different types of APIs and many different types of cloud services to connect to. At People Power, we've actually opened up our APIs because we want developers to flourish and connect devices to clouds and share amongst multiple clouds and so on. But let me show you one other concept, which is, just relating to the user experience of a product. You want it to be so that when you press a button on your phone, something happens near instantaneously somewhere else, even if you're on the other side of the world. Now, some people have argued that if you're on the other side of the world, who cares if the light turns on now or in 5 minutes from now? You're not going to notice. But they fail to take into account the actual habits of the people that are using these products, which is your family's still back at home. And actually, this is a true story. I'll tell a story on Gene's behalf here, which is, Gene was out of town and had his TV turning off with a smart plug device in the middle of the day while the kids are at school, while people are at work, and he did that to save energy on the TV, of course. But one day his son was sick and he wanted to watch TV, but the TV was off and Gene had the smartphone. So his son called Gene and said, in his very sickly voice, "Dad, can you please turn on the TV?" So Gene, right there from his phone, said, "Sure," boom, on. And it went, it came on. He didn't have to wait for 5 minutes. It's got to be.
I was a hero.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's got to be instantaneous. Now, the way you do that, though, then there's multiple protocols you can use. Now, this is an HTTP example. Let me go ahead and step a little bit over on the side here. So what we see here is an HTTP GET. Now, we all know when you type in to your browser a web address, it might take some time to load. And sometimes it can take forever to load. But in this case, what we do is you send a GET request up to the cloud server, and the server just doesn't really acknowledge you. It just leaves the connection open. It's kind of like you're waiting for that web page to load, and nothing's really happening, and eventually it'll time out. And then when it times out, you reestablish that connection. There's no data going over that connection in the meantime, but it's an open connection. It's a way to break through that firewall and that NAT. And now what happens, though, is when you have that GET connection open and you're just sitting there waiting for data, someone may be on their smartphone, and they might send a command. And you see here, it says a user sends a command here. When that user sends a command to the cloud, that cloud being like that satellite up in the sky that you beam information to, and it can immediately send that information back down to the device. And that's how you do instantaneous commands. And that's what we call a persistent connection. So, for the hardware guys in the audience and the people who love to build software, this is, this is right up your alley here. Now, our app was that we built with Presence is built to inflate like a balloon. What we allow developers to do, and this is where a lot of innovation can take place because we're focusing on building a cloud platform, for example, but there's a lot of devices that can be connected up and created that can connect up to these different types of platforms. And once you connect up to a platform, you're going to want to bring it out to a mobile app. So, of course, you need some other sets of APIs to connect in and get that data out of the cloud. In our case, in the app that we launched today, in a couple months, we will be releasing an update to this, which will allow developers to just add in their devices to the cloud. It'll appear on your mobile phone in minutes and give you the ability to start prototyping and demonstrating this to potential investors and so on. In fact, that's probably the #1 request I hear out of manufacturers who are connecting up to cloud services and trying to build this type of ecosystem is they want to be able to demo right away. So that's what we are helping to do, but there's a bigger opportunity here in my opinion. And this is a bunch of stuff scribbled on a whiteboard, which pretty much looks like my whiteboards did in college. This represents analytics. And connected devices are nice. And as actually, Kurt brought up a great example, which is your washing machine is a source of data, and it's pumping information about itself up to some cloud somewhere. But what happens if you really want to optimize your laundry for white cotton shirts, for example? You might write an analytic that will do that for you. And you can go deep into that vertical, and you can be the best in the world at white cotton shirts. Now, analytics can apply to anything, though. Everything that's creating data on the internet is an opportunity to create these analytics and value-added services. And so to give a couple examples here, take a thermostat. Take the Nest thermostat, actually. You know what made that thing so popular is not only just its looks, it's a really sexy looking product, but it has a basic analytic in there. It can learn your pattern of when you're home, when you're not, what you set the temperature to and your preferences, and it can actually play that back. That's a basic analytic. Anybody who can do software could probably figure out how to do that. And they capitalized that, and they made this thing gigantic. And then they also added in one other analytic, which is there's a little green leaf that appears on this Nest thermostat if you're conserving energy. And that's just a binary on-off, am I saving energy or not? And when it boils down to it, it should be an easy thing to make. And yet they are getting so much traction off of that. And there are lots of examples like that. Now, let's say you had that thermostat that was sending data up to the cloud. You can create analytics that would do things like tell the person who owns that house, should they buy insulation or not? How does their house compare to other people? In my case, I actually have a condo down in Tucson, Arizona, and it gets really, really hot down there. And I have some tenants there renting that. And one summer, so basically during the summertime, it gets so hot that the air conditioning just blows all the time. And this particular summer, I got a phone call a couple months into the summer saying, hey, you know what, our air conditioning isn't really working. Can you send someone to come check it out? And I'm thinking, boy, if I just had some analytic that would look at that data, I would have been able to predict that for you. And what ended up happening is it ended up costing me $2,000 to replace the air conditioning. And that was pretty horrible. So, you know, with some basic logic on top of these connected devices, you can go deep into a vertical and really enable these services on top of all of these things. And there's a lot of opportunity out there for innovation here. Now, for your business folks out there, one of the things that we've done in our app is, you know, as you connect devices in here, we're trying to create this open developer ecosystem so everyone can kind of flourish here. But we strive to be a platform that not only allows you to innovate, but also capitalize on your ideas. And one of the things we have here is a market where you can actually go in and purchase other compatible devices that work with your system. Because one of the big questions that people have about the Internet of Everything market is, if I buy this thing, is it going to be compatible with that thing? And here's an opportunity to show people that you do play with other clouds, other ecosystems, and other manufacturers. So, you know, we're working at People Power to really enable and solve the huge problems by these types of people so that we can create value for them and enable developers to flourish. And I truly believe that this Internet of Everything market will really succeed when companies can work together and build massive value in many different types of verticals that are connected together and can be orchestrated under you know, a set of rules and analytics that really adds value to the end users. Thank you.
Thank you, David. So I think we have about 20 minutes for questions from the audience. Yes, in the back there.
Personally, if I were to automate anything, it would be home security. Did I lock my windows? Did I lock my doors? I heard the door open, I'm in my bed. You know, is there a camera that can see the check via my smartphone? So this is a question for both the People Power executives and Kurt. You know, People Power, you guys had a hardware component. Do you guys ever see yourself going into the home security industry, into that vertical?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that the home security market is kind of it's related to this home automation market, but you know, when you say the word security, you also imply a certain level of you know, of service. You're going to guarantee these things don't go down and so on. Now, as a startup company at People Power, we position ourselves more as a lifestyle sort of place. In other words, I don't really want to be on the hook for keeping people alive and keeping you know, keeping people from breaking into your house. That's what companies like ADT are for, and people pay a lot of money for that.
Yeah, monthly fees.
You know, I approach the market as kind of a bottoms-up. Let's do this ourselves and make it so easy to set up and install. And then with this Presence app, which I may get an opportunity to demo to you guys, you know, it will expand. It starts off as a free camera using your old devices, but then our hope is that it will expand into those types of other devices that, like door sensors, window sensors,
Absolutely, yeah.
motion detectors, and really create this this ecosystem of devices that can be controlled from you know, essentially a single app.
Yeah, that's kind of what prompted my question, is that you had, you know, the hardware of old phones being used as video cameras, and essentially you're monitoring your home, you know, remotely. So, and that just kind of prompted my security question. But thank you.
Yes. My question is related to having home appliances with different vendors, usability issues. So if you have a Sony TV and an LG refrigerator, is there any standards evolving on the API side? My second part of the question is, if LG has a calendar, that usability will be different from now Sony vendor on a TV user interface. So is there any standards evolving on the API side?
So I think that's a great question. So today, to my knowledge, there's not a standard evolving yet for home control. There's individual APIs that individual manufacturers have defined. There are third-party companies, for instance, People Power, other companies out there that are, if they can get their hands on the APIs and build a library over time, then they can support, more more devices. But again, they have to establish individual relationships with each manufacturer. They have to support those APIs if they change over time from one year to the other. So it's a pretty challenging. It's pretty challenging to address. So I think that there are some companies like Lowe's, so big companies that are trying to assemble multiple manufacturers or add support for multiple manufacturers. Or similarly, we talked about some of the service providers like a Comcast or a Verizon who are trying to do similar things. So I think over the next few years we'll see some of those big people that are actually whoever's going to put their brand and actually get the monthly revenue for the service. They're going to be pushing the manufacturers to support something that's more easily supportable. Your second question was about the. Remind me your second question. Usability. Yes. So again, similarly to pick Netflix for example. So again, depending on what the application is, if it's Google Calendar or Netflix or Home Control, Gold, People Power. Whoever is the brand and who owns that application, again, they're gonna want to probably have a consistent user experience across different manufacturers. And again, that's why on the smart TV side, we're promoting the Smart TV Alliance and promoting open web technologies like HTML5 and common web technologies, so the application developer can write it once and hopefully have a consistent user experience more easily across manufacturers.
So what you have shown me there was very interesting, David, right? So let me just give you one example, because I've seen a lot of big things happen because you pick one problem and just focus on it. So here is me sitting here in Silicon Valley. My father is 93. He's sitting in Jaipur, India. Every year I go there. He's getting older. I'm concerned. He's active. But I'm concerned, how is he doing? So I took the first step of saying, let me put security cameras there. Got my office, just like in a mall, right? You can watch what is going on. So my office assistant watches, things are okay. But when you showed me that, I said, why couldn't I just be able to watch what is going on, wherever I'm going on, look it up, and see what's going on. Right? So is that what you're talking about? Can happen very quickly with your platform?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, maybe I can show you. Is it? Okay, great. Yeah, so you can all see my iPad 2 right now. And this app, Presence, that we launched today, and again, is free. It's available for free on the App Store. It actually transforms our old smartphones and tablets into Wi-Fi video cameras here. So this will load for a minute. It's actually coming live over the internet. And there you see a view from that corner of the room. We're connected over Wi-Fi there. I have put a fisheye lens on there and a stand, so I can attach it to the beam there. And there's also a 10-foot long power cable, because that's what I like to have on my cameras. But this is something that you can place in your father's home and actually interact with him. There's another feature though. Actually, I had somebody at CES come up to me, and I love to get out there and talk to real people about their problems. And they told me the same thing. This particular couple said, I have a 95-year-old father in assisted living. I want to know if he gets out of bed in the morning. And not only do I want to know if he gets out of bed in the morning, I want to actually talk to him. But he doesn't know how to use Skype, and he doesn't know how to use FaceTime. They asked me if I could add in two-way audio into this app so that he can talk to the person on the other side. So we actually did one better. You'll only see my side of this, but we actually added in two-way audio and video. There's no other camera on the market today that can do that because no other IP internet-connected camera has a display on it like your old smartphones and tablets do. So my face is probably showing up on that, or you guys, since I'm pointing the camera out to you, is showing up on the screen over there. And there's two-way audio and video involved there. And let me just show you one more thing. I will actually turn this device into a camera. So I'm going to add a camera. And we'll just tap in. It gives you, so user experience in mind, we want to give our new users instructions on how to actually use the app. This just gives you some tips. But let me turn the camera around. There we go. So I've got the front-facing camera now. So now, if I were to tap in, so I sign in on my user account, and I can actually see this video from anywhere in the world. But you know, a lot of times I don't want to be watching this video. I want to be doing my own thing throughout the day. So what I can do is remotely, or right here at the camera, I can enable motion detection. And we actually see, you see the green squares popping up. That's where motion is being detected. So, and you see this, it's counting down. That's like you can get out of the room, out of the picture, because in 17 seconds we're going to start recording. It actually records a 5-second video clip and then sends that straight to your email. And that's pretty powerful because you get alerted, you know, if something is seen and you can actually watch what happened. You have a little video clip there, and then it'll wait for motion to not be around for it to, before it you know, starts recording again. But
so we actually had a press interview with the LA Times. They actually wrote the article already. It's and the reporter who we gave a demo to, David kind of talked about the motion detection, and then basically he said, well, what do you use that for? And I told the story about how I was wondering what time my daughter was going to come home, because I kind of worry about her. And at midnight I go to sleep, I set up my iPad, and it's kind of just looking at the corridor, and I get a video clip, and she's come home at 2:30 in the morning. So I asked her the next day, I said, Gina, what time did you get home? 1:30. I'm thinking, no, you didn't. So, you know, and this kind of thing is kind of like this inexpensive security system also that you can set up yourself, and then the other benefit is you don't have to actually pay for all the false alarms that happen when, you know, usually what happens is you get the security system, it triggers because your dog or something happened outside, the cops come and they start charging you after a while. So anyway, there's a lot of interesting use cases, and really I think this kind of thing is really an example of an opportunity that any of you entrepreneurs out there in the audience should be thinking about. You know, there's just, you know, between all of the cool devices that LG was laying out, there are really literally hundreds of use cases where in the next generation of the internet, we're going to see a lot more examples of things that can impact and better the daily lives of people by just adding intelligence, adding new kinds of devices or new kinds of analytics, and making those available to people all over the place. Are there any more questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
I have a question on standardization. You know, I'm excited about the part you can connect the refrigerator and the washer or dryer and other things, some of the mundane things in the house. I'm a software guy, I understand about the API and all of that, but from a hardware point of view, is there a discussion going on in standardization of these devices so that anyone can plug in something else in the washer dryer or something in the refrigerator? So is there standardization going on? Like, you know, many years back, USB came around and that actually revolutionized the whole interconnection. Is there something going on in this area from a hardware point of view? Because I think without standardization, things will stop. Things will not progress. So standardization is the key for moving forward.
So one example is USB. So you've seen probably over the last 5 years, every television now has added USB. Originally it was just for diagnostics and checking in the factory. Now it's used for a wide variety of functions, and again HDMI, which has some MHL capabilities. So I think you could certainly see an extension of USB to many other devices. That's one example. I think it's the best example, near term. But also wireless is, everyone loves wireless much more than wired. So even though we do have USB ports on the TVs, they're not used that often now, to be honest. So Wi-Fi is embedded in all the TVs. You know, there might be Bluetooth. Again, the list of protocols that David had up there, I think those are the candidates.
Right. Yeah, so there's actually the USNAP Alliance is one to look at. What they have done is created a kind of a little card that is a full module, has antenna and everything in there. Speaks a SPI bus protocol, which is just 3 wires, and you plug it into an appliance. Now, there's actually a product being sold today in Home Depot, which is a Radio Thermostat of America thermostat. And on the back of this thermostat, there's 2 ports for USNAP modules. And what that means is you can actually swap out that module. You can make it talk Z-Wave, or then you can make it talk Zigbee. And on mine, I put in a Wi-Fi module. So the jury's still out a little bit, but I think that is an approach to solving some of those interoperability issues. And anyway, I think there's just by looking at the use cases today of what your product needs to do, you can really come to a conclusion quickly about what protocols you should be choosing for that product.
I have 2 quick questions. Do you believe some of these smart connected devices would be used also for marketing? So for instance, a smart refrigerator, you could keep inventory, while the grocery store is also familiar and may be able to broadcast some type of advertisement on your refrigerator. You'll have a screen. Or maybe they see that you're opening the refrigerator at 9 o'clock at night, so somebody could advertise healthier products to eat, or maybe sweet desserts to tempt you, so the next time you fill your refrigerator.
So I think that's definitely very, very reasonable. Food as a service, but you see that already today on connected products that have larger displays, so connected TVs. So for example, we do have an advertising platform. And we have brands, people that are interested in LG customers that purchase advertising space and put a McDonald's ad or American Express that shows up today on the television. And so certainly that's extensible to other devices.
Okay, second question for your company. What differentiates you from Skype? Do you have any technology that, or can they just say, oh, they have some great ideas and they have some marketable uses and they can just apply their device, their technology?
Yeah, Skype is a good analogy, but I think it really serves a different set of use cases than what we're trying to target. Skype is really used for phone calls and things like that. And although we do enable 2-way audio and video conversations, the primary value propositions we're bringing to the market is really to transform your device into a full-fledged internet-connected camera that's pretty much on all the time. It's not necessarily streaming video all the time, but you have the ability from anywhere in the world to tap in and watch that. Skype can be configured to auto-answer, and I have done demos like that in the past where I can actually remotely, this is before I had presence here, remotely connect to my Skype computer back at home and I can show something turning on and off. But that's really difficult to set up, this really just takes advantage of all of those 50 million devices, and over half of which are still in drawers, and transforming them into something that's useful. Also, I see a lot of companies that are building hardware modules and sensors and things to get connected up to the internet, and that's great. The phone itself is a bag of sensors. So in addition to just video and audio, there's opportunities there for people who want to build analytics on top of this. To do things like, if you have a spare phone, maybe you build something that I can set that phone down on top of my dryer that's not necessarily internet connected today, and it can actually detect if my load of laundry is done and then send me a text message when it's done. So by leveraging some of the existing sensors in these mobile platforms, it's a way to feed data into the analytics that people can actually create value out of.
We're going to take one more question and then let everybody go. Yes, sir.
You said that this app particularly would convert any of the existing phones into a powerful monitoring device. So typically the phones, I have like 4 or 5 phones lying around in the house, but all of them are older, like at least 2 versions older. So do you focus your development on, let's say, iOS 3.0, or are you developing on 6.0.1?
Yeah, so we support the phones that are actually actively supported by Apple, which go back to the iPhone 3GS, running iOS 5.0 and greater. I have received a lot of comments from friends and people online today as we launched this app saying, oh man, it doesn't support my iPhone 1. And it's like, well, sorry, Apple doesn't even support iPhone 1. I'd love to support that if I could. But yeah, so as the operating system, as that iOS operating system advanced, and this is using some pretty cutting edge technology in there to do that, it's really difficult to take it back to those old devices. Another challenge we faced when developing that app was that it's really actually kind of tough to get a hold of these old iPhone, even like an iPhone 3GS, running iOS 5.0. You really have to search and hope that someone didn't accidentally upgrade their operating system at any point in time, because you can't go back. So it just created a quality assurance challenge. But anyway, so iPhone 3GS and up, iPad, although we have it on iPad 1, there's no cameras on there. We can view remotely, but iPad 2, 3, 4, mini, and iPod Touch, 4th generation and 5th generation have cameras. We do support the iPod Touch 3rd generation, but it doesn't have a camera on there, so you can only use it to view.
All right, thank you so much for your time and a great turnout. I'd like to give a big round of applause for our 2 experts. We'll stick around for a few minutes if you have any questions, but thank you all very much. And this brings our event to a close.